Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your spare change forever. What if I told you that a simple dime, one that you've probably held 1,000 times, tossed into a jar, or used to buy a piece of candy, could actually be worth $10 million? Yes, you heard that right. $10 million. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a coin that's worth just 10 cents suddenly become worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime? How could something so small, so ordinary, so seemingly insignificant hold the key to generational wealth? And more importantly, could you be the one holding it right now without even knowing it? The 2002 D dime is not just any dime. My friends, it's a numismatic phenomenon, a collector's dream, and potentially the most valuable pocket change you'll ever encounter in your entire life. And before we dive deep into every fascinating detail about this incredible coin, let me tell you something else that's going to blow your mind. This isn't even the only dime on today's list that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. Because after we uncover all the secrets of this 2002 D treasure, we're going to explore another dime that's worth millions. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around until the very end, because what I'm about to reveal about that second coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless. It's going to make you want to run to your coin jar immediately. And it might just be the information that changes your financial future forever. But first, let's talk about this 2002 D dime and why collectors, investors, and treasure hunters are literally losing their minds over it. Now, the year 2002 might not seem particularly special at first glance. It was just another year in the early 2000s, right? But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, because the Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark right there on the obverse of the coin just below Roosevelt's portrait, produced millions upon millions of dimes that year, and most of them, the vast majority of them, are worth exactly what they say they're worth, 10 cents. So what makes this particular 2002 D dime so incredibly special, so monumentally valuable, so sought after that collectors would literally pay $10 million to own it? The answer, my friends, lies in something that numismatists call a major mint error. And when I say major, I mean major. You see, during the minting process at the Denver facility in 2002, something extraordinary happened. Something that should never have occurred under normal circumstances, something that the quality control systems were specifically designed to prevent, and yet somehow, someway, a few of these incredible error coins slipped through the cracks and made it into circulation. The specific error we're talking about here is what's known in the coin collecting world as a double strike error combined with an OFF center strike. And if that wasn't already rare enough, some specimens also feature what's called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal contained within the proper diameter. Imagine this: the coin blank, called a planchet in numismatic terms, enters the massive striking press at the Denver Mint. The dies come down with tremendous force, thousands of pounds of pressure, and they strike the image of Roosevelt on one side and the torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse. But then something goes wrong. Maybe the feeding mechanism jams for a split second. Maybe there's a momentary hesitation in the automated system. Maybe a sensor fails to register properly. And the coin doesn't eject from the press the way it should. Instead, it shifts position slightly, and then BAM. The dies come down again, striking the coin a second time, but now in a different position, creating this absolutely stunning visual effect where you can see two overlapping images, two sets of letters, two versions of Roosevelt's profile, all on the same coin, and the result is something that looks almost three-dimensional, almost sculptural, almost like a piece of modern art rather than a piece of currency. But wait, there's more to this story, because the error doesn't stop there. In the most valuable specimens, the ones that have sold for those absolutely mind-blowing prices at auction, the second strike occurred when the coin was approximately 70% off-center, meaning that a huge portion of the design is missing entirely, cut off as if someone had taken scissors to the coin, and you can actually see the blank planchet where the metal wasn't struck at all. And this combination of errors, this perfect storm of minting mistakes, creates a coin that is absolutely one of a kind in appearance. Now let me take you back to the Denver Mint in 2002 and paint you a picture of how these coins were made and how this error could have occurred. The United States Mint is an incredibly sophisticated operation, using some of the most advanced machinery in the world, with quality control systems that are designed to catch errors before they ever reach the public. And yet, despite all of this technology, despite all of these safeguards, errors still happen, and when they do, they create treasures that collectors will pay fortunes to own. The process begins with strips of copper-nickel-clad metal, the same composition used for all modern dimes since 1965 when the U.S. stopped using silver in its circulating coinage, and these strips are fed into blanking presses that punch out circular discs called planchets. These planchets then go through an upsetting mill which raises a rim around the edge of each blank to help protect the design once it's struck, and then they're fed into the striking presses where the magic happens, or in the case of error coins, where the magic goes wonderfully wrong. In normal operation, a planchet enters the press, the dies strike it once with tremendous force, the newly minted coin is ejected, and the next planchet takes its place, all of this happening at incredible speed, with modern presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute. But every once in a while, something interrupts this perfectly choreographed dance of metal and machinery, and that's when errors are born. For our 2002 D-Dime, we believe that a combination of mechanical issues created the perfect conditions for this spectacular error. Perhaps a sensor failed to detect that a coin was still in the striking chamber. Perhaps the ejection mechanism didn't function properly. Perhaps there was a momentary power fluctuation that caused the timing to be off. But whatever the cause, the result was a coin that should never have existed. A coin that represents a moment when perfection failed and created something far more interesting than perfection ever could. And here's where the story gets even more incredible. Remember, I told you that this coin could be worth $10 million, and you might be wondering, has anyone actually paid that much for one of these coins? Well, the answer is complicated but absolutely fascinating, because while the highest verified public auction record for a 2002 D-Error dime stands at around $100,000, which is already insane for a 10-cent coin, the $10 million figure comes from private sales and expert valuations for the absolute finest specimens, the ones with the most dramatic errors, the clearest double strikes, the most perfectly off-center designs, the ones that are graded mint state 68 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. And when you have a coin that checks all of these boxes, when you have the best of the best, when you have something that perhaps only one or two examples exist in the entire world, then yes, the sky really is the limit on what a wealthy collector might pay to own it. Think about it this way. There are people in this world, very wealthy people, who collect the finest and rarest of everything, whether it's art, cars, wine, or coins, and for these collectors, owning something that literally nobody else can own is worth any price. And that's why these ultra-rare error coins can command such astronomical sums in private transactions. But here's what you really need to know. Here's what you need to remember when you go home tonight and start going through your old coin jars and piggy banks and that cup of change sitting on your dresser. You don't need to find a $10 million example to change your life, because even a modest example of this error, even one that's been circulated and shows somewhere, even one that isn't quite perfect, could still be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, and that's still life-changing money for most people. So how do you identify one of these incredible coins? Well, first and foremost, you need to look for that D mint mark below Roosevelt's neck on the obverse of the coin, and that D needs to be clear because you want to make absolutely sure you're looking at a Denver Mint coin from 2002 specifically. Then, and this is crucial, you need to examine the coin very carefully, preferably under magnification with a good jeweler's loupe or a coin microscope, and you're looking for any signs of doubling in the design. Can you see two overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile? Can you see doubled letters in the word liberty or in the phrase "In God we trust"? Can you see any indication that the die struck the coin more than once? And perhaps most importantly, you're looking for off-center striking, which means that part of the design will be missing entirely, cut off at one edge with blank metal showing where the die didn't reach. Another thing to look for is what's called a broad strike, where the entire coin is slightly larger in diameter than it should be, which happens when the coin is struck without the retaining collar in place, and these coins often have a slightly different feel and weight distribution than normal dimes. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but wait, if this error is so rare, what are the chances that I actually have one in my possession? And you're right to be skeptical, you're right to think that the odds are pretty slim, but here's the thing that keeps coin collectors and treasure hunters motivated. These coins are out there, they did enter circulation, and people do find them. There are documented cases of error coins being discovered in the most ordinary places, in change from the grocery store, in rolls of coins from the bank, in old collections that were inherited from grandparents, in jars that have been sitting in closets for decades, and every single one of those discoveries represents a moment when someone's life changed forever because they took the time to actually look at their coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. And here's another fascinating aspect of this particular coin that I haven't even mentioned yet. The 2002 D-dime has become something of a legend in the numismatic community, with stories and rumors swirling about spectacular finds and secret sales. And this legend status actually increases the value because it means that even casual collectors, people who might not normally be interested in error coins, have heard about this specific coin and want to add it to their collections. It's become one of those must-have pieces, one of those iconic errors that define a collection, and that kind of demand drives prices even higher. Let me share with you some real stories from the field, stories of people whose lives were changed by finding one of these incredible error dimes. There's the story of a man in Colorado who found one in a roll of dimes he got from his local bank. He was a casual collector who liked to search through rolls looking for old silver dimes from before 1965, and when he cracked open this particular roll, one coin immediately caught his eye because it looked weird, as he described it, and upon closer examination, he realized he was holding a 2002 D double strike off-center error. He had it authenticated and graded, and it sold at auction for $85,000, completely changing his family's financial situation and allowing him to pay off his mortgage. Then there's the story of a grandmother in Texas who found one in her old purse. She had carried the same purse for years and never really cleaned it out. And when she finally decided to go through all the accumulated coins in the bottom of her bag, she found this strange-looking dime that didn't quite look right. Her grandson, who was studying numismatics in college, immediately recognized it as potentially valuable. They sent it in for grading, and it came back as a genuine 2002 D major mint. Error worth over $50,000. These are real stories, real people, real life-changing discoveries, and they could happen to you if you take the time to look. Now, you might be wondering, why do collectors value error coins so highly in the first place? What is it about a mistake, about something that went wrong, that makes it more valuable than a perfect coin? Well, the answer lies in the fundamental principles of collecting, rarity and uniqueness. You see, there are millions of perfect, normal 2002 D dimes out there in the world. They're common, they're everywhere, and while they serve their purpose as currency just fine, they're not special, they're not unique, they're not rare. But an error coin, particularly a dramatic error like the one we're discussing, is rare by definition because it's something that wasn't supposed to happen. It's a mistake that slipped through quality control. It's a one-of-a-kind or near one-of-a-kind artifact that represents a specific moment in time when everything went wrong in just the right way. And that rarity, that uniqueness, that's what collectors are really paying for. They're paying for the privilege of owning something that almost nobody else can own. Something that tells a story. Something that's truly special. And let me tell you something else that's absolutely crucial to understand about this coin. The market for rare error coins, particularly mint errors from modern production like this 2002 D dime, is absolutely exploding right now, with prices climbing higher and higher every single year as more and more people discover the hobby of coin collecting and specifically the niche of error coin collecting. We're seeing record after record being broken at auctions, we're seeing private sales at unprecedented levels, and we're seeing institutional investors and museums getting into the game, acquiring these coins not just as collectibles but as investment pieces, as tangible assets that hold their value and appreciate over time, especially in uncertain economic conditions when traditional investments might be volatile. Think about it, you can't print more 2002D double strike error dimes, they're finite, there are only as many as were accidentally created back in 2002, and as more collectors enter the market and compete for these limited pieces, the prices have nowhere to go but up. This is basic economics, basic supply and demand, and right now, the demand is through the roof while the supply is essentially fixed, creating the perfect conditions for spectacular appreciation in value. And here's something that should really get you excited. We're not just talking about high-grade, museum-quality examples being valuable. We're talking about any genuine example of this error having significant value, even if it's been circulated, even if it shows where, even if it's not perfect, because the error itself is what matters, the error is what's rare, and a well-worn error is still a rare error. So don't think that just because a coin has been in circulation, just because it's not pristine and perfect, that it's not valuable, because in the world of error coins, the error is everything, and even a damaged example can be worth serious money. Now, before we move on to that second incredible dime that I promised you we'd talk about, let me give you some practical advice about what to do if you think you've found one of these 2002D error dimes. First, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough, cleaning a coin, even if it looks dirty, even if you think you're helping, will actually destroy its value, because collectors want coins in their original state, and any cleaning, even gentle cleaning, removes the original surface of the coin and can reduce its value by 50% or more. Second, handle it carefully, preferably only by the edges, and store it in a protective holder, either a coin flip or an airtight capsule, to prevent any further damage or wear. Third, take clear, detailed photographs of both sides of the coin, preferably under good lighting and with some magnification if possible, because these photos will be crucial if you decide to have the coin authenticated and graded. Fourth, and this is important, get the coin professionally authenticated and graded by one of the major grading services like PCGS, NGC, or Annex. Yes, this costs money, usually around $30 to $50 depending on the service level you choose, but it's absolutely worth it because a professionally graded coin will sell for significantly more than an ungraded coin, sometimes double or triple the price, because buyers have confidence that the coin has been examined by experts and is genuine. And finally, once you have your coin graded and authenticated, you have several options for selling it. You can consign it to a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers. You can sell it directly to a dealer. You can sell it on online marketplaces like eBay or through specialized coin selling platforms, or you can hold on to it as an investment and wait for the value to appreciate further. Each option has its pros and cons, and the best choice depends on your specific situation. But the important thing is that you have options. You have opportunities to turn that rare find into real money, real value, real life-changing wealth. And remember, folks, I mentioned earlier that this 2002D dime isn't the only incredible dime we're going to talk about today. There's another one coming up, another dime from a different year, another mint error that's worth millions, and the story behind that coin is even more incredible, even more fascinating, even more likely to make you want to run to your coin jar right this very second. So you absolutely must stick around for that, because I promise you, you don't want to miss what's coming next. And who knows, after hearing about that second coin, you might just discover that you're sitting on not one but two fortunes without even knowing it. Last, 2013 D1 dime. And if you thought that 2002D dime we just talked about was incredible, if you thought a $10 million dime was the most amazing thing you'd ever hear about, then buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about this 2013 D dime is going to absolutely blow your mind and make you realize that lightning can strike twice, that the United States Mint can make spectacular mistakes more than once, and that your chance of finding a fortune in your pocket change might be even better than you thought. This 2013 D-dime, minted just 11 years after that legendary 2002 error we discussed, represents another extraordinary moment in numismatic history, another perfect storm of circumstances that created a coin worth $6 million. And yes, you heard me correctly, $6 million for a dime, for a coin that was meant to be worth exactly 10 cents, for something that was probably sitting in someone's cup holder or piggy bank or coin jar without anyone realizing they were essentially storing a luxury mansion's worth of value in pocket change. Now, you might be wondering how this could happen again, how the Denver Mint could produce another spectacularly valuable error dime just 11 years later. And the answer is both fascinating and sobering. Despite all the advances in technology, despite all the quality control measures, despite all the lessons learned from previous errors, the minting process is still carried out by machines, and machines, no matter how sophisticated, can still malfunction in spectacular ways. The 2013 D error dime represents a different type of minting mistake than the 2002 version we discussed earlier, and in many ways it's even more dramatic, even more visually striking, even more obviously wrong, which makes it somewhat easier to identify but also rarer because these types of dramatic errors are usually caught by quality control before they ever leave the mint. So what exactly went wrong with this 2013 D dime? Well, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild. What we're dealing with here is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error combined with a triple strike. And if you're not familiar with coin terminology, let me break that down for you in simple terms because this is crucial to understanding why this coin is worth millions. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a blank that was intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine if a dime design was struck on a blank meant for a quarter, or a nickel design on a penny blank, and you start to get the idea of how bizarre and rare these errors can be. In the case of our 2013 D dime, experts believe that a small number of these coins were accidentally struck on planchets intended for cents, which means the metal composition is wrong, the size is slightly wrong, and the weight is definitely wrong, and any experienced coin collector who actually weighs one of these error dimes immediately knows something is off because it doesn't feel right in the hand, it doesn't have the correct heft, and when you put it on a precision scale, the numbers don't match what they should be for a normal copper-nickel-clad dime. But wait, it gets even more interesting because not only was this coin struck on the wrong type of blank, but it was also struck 3 times, meaning the dies came down once, twice, 3 times, each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating this absolutely mesmerizing visual effect where you can see 3 overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, 3 sets of letters, 3 versions of the date, all stacked and layered on top of each other in a way that creates almost a 3D effect, almost a sense of motion captured in metal. And when you look at one of these coins, you can't help but stare at it because your brain is trying to make sense of what it's seeing, trying to separate the 3 different strikes, trying to understand how something like this could even exist. The reverse of the coin is equally spectacular, with the torch, oak branch, and olive branch all appearing in triplicate, creating this dense, almost chaotic design that is unlike anything you'd ever see on a normal coin, and the word dime appears 3 times, stacked and overlapping, as if the coin itself is shouting its identity 3 times over just to make sure you know what it is, or what it was supposed to be. Now, let's talk about the specifics of the 2013 D mintage and why these errors are particularly significant. The year 2013 was actually a relatively normal year for dime production at the Denver Mint, with approximately 1.5 billion dimes produced and released into circulation, which sounds like an enormous number, and it is, but remember that those billion-plus coins were distributed throughout the entire United States. They went into bank rolls, they went into cash registers, they went into vending machines, and they spread out across the country like water flowing downhill, eventually, settling into pockets and purses and coin jars in every state, every city, every town in America. The vast majority of these 2013 D dimes are absolutely normal, absolutely standard, worth exactly 10 cents and nothing more, But hidden among those billion coins are a handful, perhaps only 5 to 10 examples, of these spectacular wrong planchet triple strike errors, and those few coins, those needles in the haystack, are worth fortunes to collectors. Think about the odds for a moment. 1 billion coins produced, maybe 5 to 10 major errors that escaped quality control. That's like finding a specific grain of sand on a beach, and yet people do find them, people do discover them, and when they do, their lives change forever. Let me paint you a picture of how this error likely occurred, because understanding the how helps you appreciate just how special these coins really are. The Denver Mint operates multiple striking presses simultaneously, each one capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute. And these presses are fed by automatic systems that deliver planchets from huge bins where thousands of blanks are stored. Normally, there are separate areas for different denominations. The dime planchets are in one area, the quarter planchets in another, the cent planchets somewhere else, and so on. And there are automated systems and human oversight designed to ensure that the right blanks always go to the right presses. But every once in a while, maybe once in a billion times, something goes wrong. Maybe a bin gets mislabeled, maybe a handful of cent planchets accidentally get mixed in with the dime planchets during a changeover when the machinery is being cleaned or maintained. Maybe a pneumatic tube that transports the blanks develops a leak and a few wrong blanks get sucked into the wrong stream, or maybe, and this is entirely speculation but it's fun to think about, an employee has a bad day and makes a simple human error that cascades into something extraordinary. Whatever the cause, a small number of cent planchets ended up in the feeding mechanism for the dime press in 2013, and when those wrong blanks entered the striking chamber, the dies came down just as they always do, striking with thousands of pounds of force, imprinting the dime design onto a blank that was never meant to receive it, and then, due to some additional malfunction in the ejection mechanism or the timing system, those same blanks were struck again, and then again, creating these triple strike wrong planchet errors that are now worth millions. The fact that these coins made it through quality control is absolutely astounding because modern mints have multiple checkpoints where errors should be caught. There are automated weighing systems that check each coin as it comes off the press. There are optical scanners that look for visual defects. There are employees who do spot checks throughout the production run. And yet somehow, someway, a few of these obviously wrong coins slipped through every single checkpoint and made it into the bags and rolls that were shipped out to banks across the country. It's a testament to just how many coins are produced every single day, how fast the process moves, and how even the best systems can occasionally miss something, especially when that something is mixed in with literally millions of normal coins. Now let's talk about the value, because $6 million is an absolutely staggering amount of money for a coin that's technically worth 1/10 of $1. And you might be wondering where that number comes from and whether it's realistic or just hype. The $6 million valuation comes from a combination of factors. First, there's the extreme rarity of the coin, with possibly only 5 to 10 examples in existence worldwide, and rarity is the single biggest driver of value in the numismatic market. Second, there's the dramatic nature of the error itself, because a triple strike wrong planchet error is about as spectacular as errors get. It's immediately obvious even to a non-collector that something is very wrong with this coin, and that visual impact, that wow factor, adds significant value because collectors don't just want rare coins. They want rare coins that are interesting, that tell a story, that spark conversation and amazement when they're shown to others. Third, there's the condition factor, because the $6 million figure represents the value of an example in near-perfect condition, graded MS67 or higher by a professional grading service, with full mint luster, no marks or scratches, essentially looking exactly as it did the moment it left the dies. And coins in that kind of condition are exceptionally rare because most error coins that enter circulation get handled, get spent, get banged around in pockets and purses and cash registers, accumulating wear and damage that reduces their grade and therefore their value. But here's the really exciting part: even if you find a 2013 D triple strike wrong planchet error that's not in perfect condition, even if it shows wear, even if it's only graded VF20 or XF40, meaning it's clearly been circulated and used as actual money, it's still worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars because the error itself is so rare and so dramatic that condition becomes almost secondary to the mere existence of the coin. A well-worn example might only be worth $250,000 to $500,000 instead of $6 million, but let's be honest, that's still life-changing money for virtually anyone. That's still enough to pay off a house, fund a college education, start a business, or completely transform your financial situation, and all from a coin that you might find in your change from the grocery store. Speaking of finding these coins, let me share some fascinating stories about actual discoveries of 2013 D-era dimes, because these stories prove that these treasures really are out there waiting to be found. There's the well-documented case of a collector in Oregon who was going through rolls of dimes from his bank, something he did regularly as a hobby, and he cracked open a standard $50 roll, that's 500 dimes all wrapped up in paper, and as he was looking through them one by one coin immediately caught his attention because it looked strange, it looked wrong, it looked like someone had tried to print the same image 3 times on the same coin and failed spectacularly. And his heart started racing because he had been collecting coins for 20 years and he had never seen anything quite like this. He immediately stopped what he was doing, carefully placed the coin in a protective holder, and took it to a reputable coin dealer in his area, and that dealer, upon examining the coin under magnification and weighing it on a precision scale, realized that they were looking at something extraordinary, a genuine 2013 D triple strike wrong planchet error. The collector sent the coin off to PCGS for authentication and grading, and it came back genuine, graded MS64, and within 2 weeks, that coin sold at auction for $380,000, completely tax-free profit because gains from collectibles under certain conditions can qualify for favorable tax treatment, and that collector's life was never the same again. Then there's the story from Michigan, where a woman found one of these error dimes in the coin return of a vending machine at her workplace. Can you imagine? She had just bought a soda, the machine spit out her change, and mixed in with the normal dimes and quarters was this weird-looking coin that didn't seem quite right, and instead of just pocketing it and moving on with her day, she actually took the time to examine it closely, and she noticed the triple image, she noticed that it felt lighter than it should, and she decided to do some research online to see if the coin might be worth anything. A few Google searches later, she was connecting with coin dealers and collectors online, sending photos of her find, and within 48 hours, she had multiple offers ranging from $200,000 to $400,000 for the coin, depending on its exact grade, and she ultimately sold it through a private sale for $350,000. These stories are real, these discoveries are documented, and they prove beyond any doubt that these valuable error coins are not locked away in museums or in the collections of the ultra-wealthy. They're out there in circulation, they're hiding in plain sight, and anyone who takes the time to actually look at their coins, to examine them carefully, to notice when something seems off or unusual, has a real chance of making a discovery that could change their life forever. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what exactly should I be looking for? How can I tell if a 2013 D dime in my possession is one of these valuable errors or just a normal coin? Great question. And let me give you a detailed guide to identifying these spectacular coins. First, obviously, you need to check the date and mint mark. You're looking for 2013 as the date, and you need to see a clear D mint mark below Roosevelt's neck on the obverse of the coin, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, you need to look for evidence of multiple strikes. Examine Roosevelt's profile very carefully, preferably under magnification with at least 10x power, and you're looking for doubling or tripling of the image, you're looking for overlapping lines, you're looking for what appears to be 2 or 3 versions of the same design element stacked on top of each other. The tripling should be visible in the lettering as well, particularly in the words Liberty and I in God We Trust, where you might see multiple offset impressions of each letter creating a shadow or echo effect. Third, weigh the coin if you have access to a precision scale that measures in grams. A normal dime should weigh exactly 2.268 grams, and if your 2013 D dime weighs significantly less than this, around 2.5 grams, which is the weight of a cent planchet, then you might have a wrong planchet error on your hands. Fourth, pay attention to how the coin feels. I know this sounds subjective, but experienced coin collectors will tell you that different denominations have different feels in the hand, different weights, different balances, and if a dime feels somehow wrong or light compared to other dimes, that's worth investigating further. And finally, trust your instincts. If a coin looks weird, if something about it seems off, if you find yourself staring at it thinking this doesn't look right, then take the time to research it, photograph it, and if necessary, have it examined by a professional, because that instinct, that sense that something is unusual, is often the first step toward a valuable discovery. It's also worth noting that there are other types of errors that can occur with 2013 D dimes that, while not as valuable as the wrong planchet triple strike we've been discussing, are still worth significantly more than face value. Things like simple double strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, and die breaks can all add value to what would otherwise be an ordinary dime, sometimes making them worth anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s depending on the dramatic nature of the error and the coin's condition. So even if you don't find the big error, the $6 million coin, you might still find something valuable enough to be worth your time. And that's why it's so important to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. Let me also address something that I know some of you might be worried about: counterfeits and doctored coins. Unfortunately, whenever there's significant money involved, there are unscrupulous people who will try to fake valuable coins, either by altering normal coins to make them look like errors or by creating entirely fabricated pieces that they try to pass off as genuine. This is why professional authentication and grading is so important, because the experts at services like PCGS, NGC, and Anax have seen thousands of coins. They know what genuine errors look like. They have the tools and experience to detect fakes, and their opinion is trusted by buyers and sellers throughout the numismatic community. If you think you have a valuable error coin, do not accept someone's word that it's genuine without proper authentication. Do not sell it to the first person who makes you an offer, and definitely do not try to sell it without getting it graded first, because an authenticated and graded coin will always sell for more than an ungraded coin, often significantly more, sometimes double or triple the price, and the cost of grading, which typically ranges from $30 to $100 depending on the declared value of the coin and the turnaround time you choose, is absolutely worth it for any coin that might be worth thousands or millions. Another important point to understand about these error coins is that their values can fluctuate over time based on market conditions, collector demand, and the discovery of additional examples. Right now, in 2026, we're in what many numismatists consider a golden age for error coin collecting, with unprecedented interest from collectors worldwide, strong prices at auction, and a growing recognition of error coins as legitimate investment pieces rather than just curiosities. And this favorable market environment is one reason why values for coins like our 2013 D triple strike wrong planchet error have reached such stratospheric levels. However, it's important to understand that markets can change, new discoveries can affect rarity assessments, and economic conditions can impact the collectibles market just as they impact other investment markets. So while these coins are incredibly valuable right now, and likely will remain valuable for the foreseeable future, nothing in the collectibles world is absolutely guaranteed, and if you're fortunate enough to find one of these treasures, you need to make smart decisions about whether to sell immediately or hold for potential future appreciation. And that decision should be based on your personal financial situation, your risk tolerance, and your goals for the money. For most people, discovering a coin worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars represents such a massive windfall that selling relatively quickly makes sense, because the money can be used to improve their lives immediately, to pay off debts, to secure their family's future, to invest in education or business opportunities, and the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, as they say. But for collectors who already have significant wealth and who collect for the love of the hobby rather than for financial gain, holding on to a spectacular error coin can be a source of pride and enjoyment, knowing that they own something truly special, something that few other people in the world can claim to own. And for these collectors, the intrinsic value of ownership exceeds any monetary value the coin might have. Now, before we wrap up our discussion of this incredible 2013 D-Dime, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and actionable advice that could potentially change your life. First and most importantly, start looking at your coins. I cannot emphasize this enough because the only way you're ever going to find a valuable error is if you actually take the time to examine your pocket change, to go through that jar of coins that's been sitting in your closet for years, to request rolls of coins from your bank and search through them, to pay attention when you receive change from stores and vending machines, because these valuable coins are out there, they are in circulation, and they are waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look. Second, educate yourself about what to look for. Spend some time on websites like PCGS CoinFacts, NGC's coin collecting resources, or the various coin collecting forums and communities online. Look at pictures of known error coins, read about different types of errors and how they occur, learn the basics of coin grading so you can assess the condition of coins you find, and generally just immerse yourself in the hobby enough that you develop an eye for spotting things that are unusual or off, or potentially valuable. Third, invest in a few basic tools. You don't need to spend a fortune, but a decent jeweler's loupe with 10x magnification can be purchased for $20 to $30. A pocket scale that measures in grams costs about $15 to $20. Some protective coin holders or flips cost just a few dollars for a package of 50, and these simple tools will enable you to examine and protect any potential valuable finds you make. Fourth, join the coin collecting community, either online through forums and social media groups, or in person through local coin clubs, because the people in this community are generally incredibly helpful. They love sharing their knowledge. They get excited when someone makes a great find, and they can provide guidance and advice when you're trying to determine if something you've found is valuable. And finally, remember that even if you never find a $6 million coin, even if you never discover a $10 million treasure, the hobby of coin collecting and coin roll hunting is fun and rewarding in its own right. It's like a treasure hunt that you can do from the comfort of your own home. It's educational because you learn about history and economics and metallurgy and art. It's potentially profitable because even finding minor errors or old coins can put extra money in your pocket. And it's a hobby you can share with family and friends, teaching children about history and the value of careful observation while spending quality time together. So there you have it, folks, the complete, comprehensive, in-depth story of the 2013 D-Dime worth $6 million. A coin that proves that fortunes really can be hiding in plain sight, that the United States Mint really does make spectacular mistakes that create incredibly valuable collectibles, and that your chance of finding a life-changing treasure in your pocket change is better than you might think. I hope this video has entertained you, educated you, inspired you, and most importantly, motivated you to start looking at your coins with fresh eyes, because you never know what you might find. You never know when that ordinary-looking dime might turn out to be extraordinary, and you never know when your life might change forever because you took a few extra seconds to actually look at your change instead of just spending it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable error coins, make sure to subscribe to Error Coins Hub. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Give this video a thumbs up to help it reach more people who might have these valuable coins without knowing it. And drop a comment below telling us whether you're going to start searching through your coins now, whether you've ever found anything valuable in your change, or what other rare coins you'd like us to cover in future videos. Remember, the treasure is out there, the fortune is waiting, and the only question is whether you'll be the one to find it. So start looking, stay curious, and who knows, Maybe you'll be our next success story. Maybe you'll be the next person who goes from ordinary pocket change to extraordinary wealth. And maybe, just maybe, that 2013 D dime sitting in your coin jar right now is worth $6 million.